show and tell. I love your blocks.
That's the new block. Oh, that's pretty.
Oh. Oh, wow.
Love your colors.
Yeah, those are beautiful colors.
Very dramatic.
Yeah. And I love the black.
I don't
One of
usually
these
like
days
black.
I'm gonna
but
make a
that's
quilt with a
beautiful.
That's
black
gonna be
background.
So then I'm hoping the next blog will put a little more push back.
You'll have room in your next block. So I've got the patterns. New people, you'll need to come see me if you want to get the older ones. This one's got a little more cutting. It's a little more complex.
Oh.
Who else brought you until it's yours? You finished your.
The last block of the back.
Sorry, I can pass them back. Thank you.
This is what they did the last before this block. But I like the way she finished hers better.
That's okay.
This is very busy. Very nice.
Yeah.
Liked it a lot.
It's pretty.
It's very pretty.
Very nice.
Those different size blocks.
And all those blocks or triangles.
Anybody else bring show and tell? No? Okay. So this block has no special pieces to cut. It's all squares, rectangles, and half square triangles, which we've done all of these. A lot. I do want to tell you, pay close attention to the cube that you're cutting from. So whether it's the 8-inch cube or the 4-inch cube, so it doesn't really matter because we're using scraps to cut. That's why there's no fabric requirements on here, because you're gonna go through all your little pieces like this and use them up. It looks like you have some coordinating fabric, but
And leftovers from the quilt I made before.
perfect. This is the perfect project for that.
Tell me your name again.
My name's Joan.
Joan.
What's your name?
Linda.
Linda. Last name?
Hollenbeck.
Hollenbeck.
I live.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice.
The only place that I can see that you might run into any trouble is up here on these very, very corners. And I don't know if we've done a set-in triangle like this. So it's basically a half square triangle with a half square triangle in the middle of it. I do recommend that you use the precision piecing glue. It is your best friend on a project like this with these little bitty pieces. I'm really digging the 4-inch cube. Who else is?
The what?
The 4-inch cube.
Oh my God.
I like it.
It's just so.
It is little pieces.
But I do like it. It's fun.
Yeah. I like it a lot. So I've got a project for the new people that we did. The pineapple sampler, I did it in the 8-inch cube and the 4-inch cube. And I think my favorite version of it is in the 4-inch cube, and I have it here. Molly, can you run and get it? Mm-hmm. It's on my desk.
Okay.
And so I'm really enjoying that portion of it. One announcement to make: Pam Heller is going to be here the 16th, June 16th, during the
Quilt fest.
yeah, it's the Friday during Quilt Festival. Yes, June 16th, 6 to 7:30. And I'm not quite sure what her class is. We talked about doing a trunk show. I think she's going to bring quilts for the new dyes that they have out. And of course, we'll have specials in the store as well, too. It's $10 to sign up. I would sign up now if you are interested in coming to that. AccuQuilt is going to start marketing that for us as well regionally. So we have 75 seats. We have 75 parking spots. So If there is overflow, we can park in across the street. I think the dentist across that way they're gonna be closed, so we can park there and take up space.
Can I ask who's Pam Heller?
Pam Heller works for AccuQuilt. She's been there about 8 years, and so she does all of their videos that they do. So
I can't remember, is she the taller one or?
she's the taller one. So this was made using the 4-inch cube.
Yeah,
That's pretty.
So
that is really pretty.
it really, I don't know, it kind of just does something being a miniature quilt like this, just a wall quilt. There's something, because I have the big version of it too, and it's a beautiful quilt too, but I really like how this just looks more complex.
Yeah.
So,
Very pretty.
past project. So, encourage you to come, because this is one of our club projects. The red and green quilt out there was one of our past projects. The circles quilt that's hanging out there, that was one of our past projects as well. And I think our next project is going to be a Carolina Star block, because there's like 28 different layouts you can do for that one. And so block on board instead of using a cube. So we'll just do a small quilt with it. Okay,
So I forget, which one comes when you get the set, the ready, set, go? Is that the 9-inch?
the 8-inch.
That is the 8-inch,
The
okay.
8-inch cube. And so, let me use yours. For the new people, if you're looking at the pattern,
4-inch one instead of the.
I do have rotary cutting instructions here as well. And when you see, so take shape number A, and it has a square and it has a line diagonally. It means you cut the square and then you cut it in half diagonally. And then if you want to use your cutter, go use a die number 5 from the 4-inch cube. If you don't have the 4-inch cube, you can, and you only have the 8-inch and you don't want to get the 4-inch, then you can use rotary cutting as well. That's why I include this in here.
So there'd only be 2 that you use rotary cutter on that absolutely have to have the 4-inch. it looks like.
Yes.
Okay.
So 4-inch and 8-inch go together really well. Her quilt, we used the 4-inch and the 8-inch cube, and so we're just doing a table runner with this one. Pattern is $5 for the pattern. We charge something that takes a while to put them together. And these are patterns that we make here. They're not AccuQuilt patterns. They're our exclusive content. Any questions about the pattern?
You can get block 1 and 2.
Yes.
I haven't been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll take.
And the $5 is for the 5 patterns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just a one time.
Okay.
$5. If it was a whole quilt, we'd charge 10.
Okay.
So this pattern was 10.
Okay.
But
That works.
yeah. So, and I do have a quilt layout. If you don't want to make a table runner, I do have a small quilt pattern, and that one will be $5. So for the layout for the quilt, if you don't want to do a table runner. Any other questions?
Do you sell the pattern for the pineapple?
I do. It's the only pattern out there. But the website is jonesews.com.
Oh, on Jones.
Yep, and it is download, so you can go there and download it and print it out. But I gotta say, there was a little bit of grumbling about putting this one together.
I'm a little afraid.
I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
No, it's not bad. It's really not bad. It's just that it's pieced on the diagonal.
Yeah. Oh, piece of that.
And it was the first time we've done that in our club, and some people said they'd never do another one. But you never know. Maybe a bigger.
Never say never.
I was
Never
gonna say,
say
I did one on a table runner one time, and once you get your mind wrapped around it, you just starting in the corner,
Yeah.
and then you're adding, and then you're adding, and you're just going this way instead of. And actually, I thought,
Yeah, I've done table runners like that, so it wouldn't be any, if you're used to doing table runners diagonally, it shouldn't be that much harder.
No, it's
Okay.
really not. And actually, if you pay attention, well, the part that, and I had to take it out because I made a mistake in this one, and I made a mistake, which is permanent now, in the large one. But it's these right here, these ones that have two colors for the peaks. If you spin that around, you end up with a wedge instead of peaks. So you just got to pay close attention to that. And the way that I design these patterns is when you're piecing the row, it is on the stretchy grain. So when you're piecing your block, it's on the straight grain. So, but when you piece the row, it's on the stretchy grain. So if you need to tug a little bit to get your seams to line up, you can do that. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about when I'm putting these blocks together is which way is the grain going with the cube. So it makes it a little bit easier when we start doing assembly. That's a good question. Any other questions?
Is the pattern that's out there the small size or the big size or both?
It is the 8-inch cube.
Okay.
And I don't have fabric requirements for the 4-inch cube out there,
Okay.
so it's only the 8-inch cube, but it is the same die number.
Okay.
So if you want
Just
to
on
make
the
it
4-inch cube instead of the 8.
right,
Okay.
right. Good question. Any other questions? Okay. So I don't know that we need to. Does anybody need to see this cut? Okay.
And it looks like really all you do is you take your one square and then you'd add the triangle to each side, and then when you trim that, that's now a straight edge, and you'd add then the next big triangle, and right? I mean, that's
Yeah, when you're using, I'll use this one. When you're using this shape, this little triangle shape here, which, do we have it in there? No. Nope, you shouldn't have to worry about any.
Squares, so yeah.
You might have a little bit of corner poking out when you're piecing these half square triangles. Sometimes they don't quite line up straight when you press the seams open or press the seams to one side. So you may need to trim that off, especially if you're using a stitch guide before you sew your next piece on or start piecing your big squares together.
Can I ask this? This is very basic, but I'm not sure I got it the first time. When you put the die into the machine, and you, can you tell me again what, where the straight grain should be and where the little label? I'm not sure if I'm doing it right all the time.
Okay,
I've written it somewhere, but I can't remember.
so AccuQuilt tells you label to your belly.
Label to belly.
So I will tell you it doesn't matter which way this die goes through. The only thing that matters is your grain, right? So I have a salvage here. So I know this is my straight grain. So I can put this on my fabric like this. So there's my label. My label's going through.
Okay.
The only thing that matters is your straight grain.
Okay.
So if you send it through like this, it's gonna stretch. That fabric is gonna stretch. Your squares won't be squares. I've seen it off as much as 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch doesn't seem like a lot unless you're working with little pieces like this. Then 1/8 of an inch off of 4 1.5 inch is a 1/2 inch. So be sure and get that
I'm doing it right. Okay. I just,
through this way. Yep, straight grain always goes through like this.
like what?
This way.
So if the cutter was right here, the die would go through this way.
So the straight grain
Right,
Is going
is going long ways.
long ways.
Well, sideways, I guess.
sideways, correct.
Right.
Because
High
if
and
you
tight.
flipped it around, then as it's going under, it would stretch the fabric.
And if it sounds like a heartbeat, that's your stretchy grain. Should sound like that. To find the straight grain. If you didn't have the salvage, like this piece has no salvage.
Oh, big difference. I never noticed that.
Big difference.
The lower one is definitely not the one you want.
And you can even see it stretch. So
usually I can kind of,
yeah, some fabrics, I mean, this is Wilmington, so some fabrics are better than others. So like Kansas Troubles. This is Henry Glass. Same thing. So doesn't really matter. Flannels, you might have a little bit harder time figuring out which is a stretchy grain and which is a straight grain, but it's good to keep track of that salvage.
So the label goes into the machine. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, it
That
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
really
That's what you
matter.
said, it
Doesn't matter which way the dye goes through the machine.
Oh, okay.
AccuQuilt will tell you put your belly
Okay.
and then line up your salvage. But they're teaching
Okay.
masses of people who can't stay ask the questions that you just did. So when they're doing their videos, they're like label to the belly and send it through this way.
And the
Because
salvage is towards you too,
right, then the salvage is towards you too, right? But I've taught how to cut this one over and over to save your fabric. And so what you do is you cut your first piece, you cut your 6 layers, cut your first piece, and then just spin this die around and put your fabric back down. So then labels away from you. So it doesn't really matter which way it's going through as long as the straight grain is right. And I can't stress that enough. Ask me how I know.
On that, then some of them, have the angle that you go in at. Do you on that as well?
So like with the angle like this, do you mean like putting it through, like
your
rotating
fabric.
it a little bit?
Yeah,
Your fabric.
rotating a little bit.
So yeah, let me get the larger. Pulled out the smallest die that I could, and so her question was, when the die is not straight on the die, and I know what you're asking, so I'm just going to fold this in half. Do you put the fabric on like this? And you do not. So you want to follow. So this one's clearly not straight on the die. When you're putting your fabric on, you want to align it with the shape of the die.
Right. That's what I usually do.
So sometimes I get off, but it's not enough to actually want to go recut it. I can always make it work, especially if I'm using the glue. Because I have another piece that will stabilize that.
I'm sure I've done that, but I was thinking I have second guessing myself.
Now even this one is a little bit angled on the die itself.
So you would put your fabric with that top.
Yep, so I would align my fabric with this. And draw those lines on your dies so that you know where the edges of your fabric should be. Some people come out a 1/4 inch and draw the line. I draw mine right on the die where the blade is.
Okay.
So
I
that
saw the lines on one out there. I had no clue why they were there.
when I'm doing this, I know where the edge of the die should be. So the fan folding makes it a little bit easier.
Yes.
Okay.
That
Can
would
you
be a
wipe those
hard
off?
shape to fan fold on just because of the way it's so
Typically,
wide on one end and narrow on the other.
this one I don't fan fold. I
Right.
cut my 6 strips and then I cut 6 here
Yeah.
and then just spin this die around and then cut 6 more.
Okay.
Spin and cut, spin and cut.
Like we did the triangle.
Yes. Yep. And that makes it super easy if you're wanting directional. So somebody was doing kind of a pattern fabric that had a direction, and they were doing die number 5 half square triangles, and they were trying to make it look like the flying geese look like butterflies. And so, when you do that, right, they're mirrored. So when she was piecing, some of the lines went this way and some of the lines went this way. So those are things to take into consideration when you have directional fabric that you want to be directional, you only cut one side of your die. So that we could actually do. So like if you wanted to put this yellow piece, if you wanted it to be a directional fabric, you would only cut on one side of the die. It'd be a little bit of waste of fabric, but it would look like eye candy when you were done. So otherwise, I think it would look kind of cool either way, so you'd have lines going in all directions. So, good questions. What else?
I'm excited to see what I have.
Yeah, it'll be fun. This is gonna be a fun little project.
Yeah. I need some paper runners.
2 more months left of this one. We will not have a meeting in June. It falls during the Kansas City Regional Quilt Festival, so we'll meet again in July. Okay? So for people that's not caught up, it'll give them a chance to do it.
Still trying to catch up on the other block of the week.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, if I wasn't making that.
I would have had 17 done, but I cut those half square triangles too small.
Yeah, I did. I cut mine too big, and then I had to go cut them too smaller.
Yeah. So, and I had enough spare fabric for the light color, but I didn't have enough for the dark colors. Okay.
So does everybody watch the Tuesday night show? On occasion. So what she's talking about, we do a weekly sew along, and so that uses Moda's pattern, and I love that it's free.
Yes.
It is not the easiest pattern to read.
Right.
It is complicated.
Where would I watch that?
Tuesday night, it's going to be on Quilters HQ Facebook or Joan Sew's YouTube.
I can get YouTube.
So,
And you can watch it after the fact. if you
yep,
can't
it's
have it
always
live.
just up there. If you
Yeah.
go to YouTube, go to lives, go to the channel, go to Joan Sew's, go to the channel, go to live, and then all of our lives are up there. We do fabric sales, we do notions, we do all kinds of stuff.
So you do a block of the month on Tuesdays?
It's block of the week.
Block of the weekend?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know.
30.
And we're at 19 now, I think.
We just did 20.
20. I picked up 20
Yeah.
today.
We
Okay.
just
Yeah.
did 20.
Pick 'em up here.
So
we
there's
have
how many more?
10 more.
10 more. Okay.
10 more, and then there's a border on the outside. There's no sashing. If you want to make the quilt bigger, you would just add a sashing.
Yeah.
We just use Paintbrush Studios white, so makes it easy to get. Yeah, I like patterns like this that just says here's the shape, here's how many you cut,
Mm-hmm.
and here's your very, very simple
Yep.
how to assemble it
Exactly.
in order, in columns. So this makes sense to me. So I hope it makes sense to you. We pretty much do all of our patterns like this. Everybody has their own pattern style. I love Kim Deal, but it's like reading a novel. I mean, and Lori Holt does patterns very similar to this. She adds a little more verbiage. I'm just doing make 4 because it's just sewing 2 half square triangles
Yep.
together. I don't need to put the verbiage in there to say take one white shape A and one purple shape A and sew them together.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, right sides together.
Right.
So if you're in this class, you've already sewn a little bit. If you've purchased an AccuQuilt, you're all in on the quilting and you know right sides go together.
Yeah.
So
And press to the dark side.
press to the dark side, or little ones like this, press open.
Some little ones, okay.
Little ones.
Always press open.
I don't always. This one I didn't. I pressed to the dark side. And I have no problem, I talked about this last night, when you're pressing your seams, I use that multi-function finger presser tool and wait until you're ready to sew the pieces together to press the seam so that you know which way your seam needs to go. As I said before, I wished I had served this instead of piecing it. Because the back there's a lot of little strings. I brought it in to get it quilted, so.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot of little strings that the serger would have just
Taken off.
taken care of when I pieced this. So I'm really digging the 4-inch cube, but I might use my serger to piece them instead of my sewing machine.
So what would a serger, I don't have a serger, so I don't know anything about it. What would that do?
So it does a finished edge. So on your clothing,
I know what the finished edge is,
Yeah.
but how do you use it when you're piecing it?
so you
You
do
mean on the outer part?
nope on piecing like assembly.
So it keeps
you're
it from
putting together.
rattling, you know,
Yeah.
how like,
Yeah,
especially,
yes,
especially like,
When you
Kona
got-
cotton just ravels
Yeah,
horribly.
right, and
Yeah.
especially if you
And
ripped out of the
Threads are everywhere and you can
Yeah.
never get them all off before
So
you
that
quilt
takes
it.
care of that?
Yeah,
You
'cause
could.
like if you
You
have a
could
shirt
you
on
could
right
use your
now,
serger
and
to
you
assemble
turn this and
instead
you
of
see how
your.
this is all sewn in.
Yeah. I don't know.
Look at the other seam, not
But
the
that
hem,
makes
but the
sense.
actual
That
seam,
is-
if there's a
if you
side
rip
seam.
them out a couple times, it starts to ravel, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that's
In a
what
quilt like
serger
this,
does.
there's so many pieces.
And it keeps.
I mean, the back would just be really
tight.
tidy.
Yeah.
So my concern with this is I've got all of these little red
Yes,
threads,
right. Yeah.
and we're gonna quilt it, and they're gonna show through.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
So
Yeah.
that would be why.
That's next on my list to buy.
Serger.
We've
got some good ones.
Lesson this afternoon.
Oh, nice. First embroidery lesson.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
With
that
the
was-
net?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was gone for 3 weeks, so connecting.
Any other questions? Great questions. And welcome. What's your name?
Maddie.
Maddie? Okay, welcome.
Maddie.
What's your name?
Margaret.
Margaret. I think I know you.
Yeah,
You're in the Missouri.
I don't remember your name, but I remember you from class.
What's your name?
Pam. I'm Sarah.
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 And Jean, right?
Jean.
Okay.
And Linda.
Yeah. I'm Beth.
Maddie and Margaret.
Okay.
I won't remember it all.
I am terrible with names.
Yeah, I
I
did the same
remember
2 or 3
faces.
times, so Margaret and
Yeah.
Maddie, I remember that, because I've said that.
Yes.
That's why I said it.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. This is all I have, and we will see you again in July, unless we see you at Kansas City Regional.
And my $5, yes, I'll be there too.
Yep.